then I'd have no money because I didn't believe in budgets. I thought budgets were for poor people. Honey, I was crazy as all get out. Do you understand me?
Why are we not wealthy?
Now, I don't care about upsetting people because, I don't like people. I love them. But I don't want liking people to get in the way of loving them. Because if I like you too much, I might not tell you the truth. But if I love you, I'm always going to give it to you real. Let's just deal with the truth. First of all, everybody who's running around broke, talking about you don't spend no money on nothing, you're lying to yourself. The money is going somewhere.
But what about using some of your hard-earned money to treat yourself?
I tell women, if you go into the beauty shop every week, that's $50 a week, that's $2,600 a year, get you a ponytail. It's $12.99. You'll be rich. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, I done wrote a bad check, this, that, and the other. Honey, don't come in here with no excuses.
We are joined by author and financial expert, Dr. Lynn Richardson, along with rapper and author, MC Light. They are here to tell us and share details on their book, Your Man and Your Money.
I generally do not advise that couples, even when they're married, buy things together. Because if you buy everything together and you have a financial setback, then everybody's credit gets ruined. Everybody goes down.
So here to help us figure out the budget for our big day is celebrity financial coach Lynn Richardson. Welcome, Lynn.
The most expensive thing is either the dress or the people.
Oh, well, you have to wear the dress.
Yeah.
I guess you got to have
don't get people? What are you trying to say?
Here's the deal. The people cost money because they want to eat.
they want to eat.
I know you might have your eyes on a hot new pair of shoes, but if you file your taxes properly, you might just be able to pay off those credit card bills, build a legacy for your family, and get those shoes.
Wealthy people don't take pride in how much money they spend. They take pride and build legacy based on how much money they keep. Consider a business owner's policy, a straightforward package of coverages designed for the many sides of your business, so you can be sure everything you worked so hard to build is protected. Contact your local Nationwide agent or log on to learn more.
How much do you spend each day on a cup of coffee? Think about it. It adds up fast. And before you know it, you spent more money on caramel lattes than you put in your savings account the whole year.
I kept finding myself in a feast to famine situation. I'd have a whole lot of money, then I'd have no money because I didn't believe in budgets. I thought budgets were for poor people. Honey, I was crazy as all get out. Do you understand me?
Why are we not wealthy? Why aren't we wealthy? It's because we have not tapped into our own power. So the first thing that we have to do as a sister in business is realize that we have to spend less money than we make.
My dream was to help other people achieve their dreams.
There is not an aspect of my life that has not changed due to the presence of my sister, Lynn Richardson. Because of her presence, everything has changed for me. Last year I could say we sort of quadrupled our income. This year, I'm sort of scared because it comes with bonuses for her.
I finally got my money right, and now I want to help others get theirs right too. Well, hello. I'm so excited to be here with you again. We are just moving right along with everything that we need to know about financial wellness. And I am so thankful to the Delta Research and Educational Foundation for bringing us together for week 4. I am also very thankful to Toyota. Thank you so much, Toyota, for doing this. So we have a lot to go over. We've got a lot of great information. And I know in prior weeks, maybe some of it may not have felt as good as you'd like. Maybe you had some sad moments. Maybe you had some aha moments. But it'd be above and beyond all that. I pray that you had moments where you understand that you have the power to change your financial situation. And so we've talked about spending less money, getting more money, getting your money back. And now we have to go to the very next thing, which I think is going to make your life so much brighter. It's going to make your future so much more tangible. And it's going to help you because money will work harder for you than you can ever work for it. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to talk today about everything that you need to make your money grow. And what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to get pen and paper, okay? Make sure you get pen and paper because there are going to be some things said here tonight. And you're going to say, what was that number? How do I get to that number? How can this work for me? And I don't want you to focus on writing every single thing, but I want you to focus on writing the thing that's actually going to help you get to the next level and remember the most important thing when you leave this session. So we'd like to make sure that we show the calendar so that you can see not only what you've already studied or what you may have missed if this is your first week, but also what's coming up. Okay, so just take a look at that. And also remember, this is available to you at deltafoundation.net. It's going to be available to you also via a website that we're going to share at the very end. So please do not worry. We have the opportunity to share this with you again and again, and you will have the opportunity to watch this again. Okay, let's see here. So let's talk about the definition of wellness. And I just want to go back and repeat a few things I've already said, because I think it's important for us to not just get the information, but it's important for us to know that once we get the information, we've got to do something with it, because knowledge is not power until you put it into action. And we have been very strategic and very intentional about using the term wellness versus a financial class or financial education or financial literacy. This is about wellness. And according to Pfizer, wellness is the act. It is an act. It's not just a state of existence. It is the act of practicing healthy habits on a daily basis to attain better physical and mental health outcomes. So that instead of just surviving, how many of us are just surviving? You are actually thriving. And one of the things we want to make sure that we remember in step one in learning how to get to this state of wellness was to spend less money, right? Because you've heard my story. The more money I made, the more money I spent. You've also heard me say more money doesn't solve a money problem. If it did, millionaires wouldn't go bankrupt. So it's not the amount of money that you get, it's what you do with what you get. And if you get in the habit of spending less money, what does that mean? That means 10% towards tithing and giving. And you figure out what that is in your heart. For me, tithing means I tithe to my church, but it also means that I have a set amount of money to the side that in case someone needs me, there's an emergency, a family member, a friend, or some other cause that I want to commit to, I've got a budget to say, yes, I can help you. And one of the things I learned early in my career is that good givers are great getters. So tithing and giving, and I started tithing and giving when I was completely flat broke. So it changed me internally and it made me be more responsible with the money that I had left. The next 10% is for saving. 30% is for your incidentals, and then that 50% is for your bills. If you don't have enough money, you're going to subtract. Subtract what? All of your non-essential expenses. Essential means your life depends on it. So your children are going to school, but private school is not essential. Your children are taking activities, but paying for extracurricular activities is not essential. I took my kids out of the paid activities and put them in the free activities at the church and at the free school. So once you start looking at those non-essential expenses, you can start to get things in order if you don't have enough money left over. You cannot take money from your tithing and your saving, but you can reduce your incidentals. The other thing that happens if you've got money left over, then you don't just want to go start buying everything, buying a bigger house, buying a bigger car. You want to get rid of your debt. Why? Because your debt is the middleman between you and your wealth. When you pay interest to someone else, they're taking the interest that you pay and they're making their money grow. I want you to stop paying interest to other people and make your money grow, because money will work harder for you than you can work for it. That's important to understand. Money will work harder for you than you can work for it. So it's time to make your money grow. So what does that mean? We want to understand about getting more money, because once you get more money, then you've got the ability to have something to make that money grow. And I wanted you to take a look at this, and I wanted you to see once again, where do we get more money? There are 4 different types of income that you can get money from. As an employee, that means you exchange time for money. For most people, that's a finite, that's a set amount. You really can't go above and beyond what the budget is. Also, self-employment income. Self-employment simply means that you own the job. You have unlimited money, but you do not have unlimited time. So at some point, you may then want to take it to a business. A business is where you've taken your systems and your skills, and now you are leveraging other people's time for money. You may have a franchise. You may have other ways to make your business grow. And then you want investment income. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Investments can come from real estate. It can come from your stocks. It can come from your bonds, your 401k. And this is money that is working for you without you working for it. So just like stair step number 1, we wanted to spend less money. And at the end of the day, why? So the money that you have left over, you can make it grow. Stair step number 2, you want to get more money. Why? So you can make your money grow. Stair step number 3, we talked about. This was get your money back. Start a home-based business so you can increase your cash flow and minimize your taxes with access to hundreds of deductions. Many of the people today that you see in the news who are on strike, many of them are on strike without pay. But those who are on strike and had a legitimate home-based business that they can do without violating the strike. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are an actor and you are on strike because you cannot act. Well, that doesn't mean you can't teach acting in your home-based business. Let's say you work for the automotive business and you are on strike. Well, that doesn't mean that you cannot do side business or teach or other consulting type jobs while you are on strike. So it's always best to ensure that you can get your money back, not only so you have that extra income, but why? So you can have access to tax deductions like we talked about, your cell phone, all the things that you're spending money on anyway, and ultimately so you can make your money grow. So stair step number 4, make your money grow. I want you to remember this mantra, and I want you to write this down. Money will work harder for you than you can work for it. You must know that, and you must understand that. I run companies for some of the world's greatest icons, and what they know and what they understand and what the ones that I work with put into practice is finding ways to make the money that they make more money. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're blessed to have $100,000 and you've got that $100,000 sitting somewhere earning, I'm just going to give you a number, 10% interest. That means that the $100,000 is earning $10,000. Now, let's say you want to buy something new. You want to remodel a part of your home. Instead of you taking money out of the $100,000, you take the money out of the interest that it earns. Your $100,000 stays intact. And let's say you only spent $8,000. You take $8,000 of the $10,000 in interest, and you let that buy your new whatever it is that you want. The other $2,000 is still in the bank or still in your account or still in your savings instrument. And now you are earning interest off of $102,000. That's where you want to get. I told my daughters when they were young, I said, when you buy your first car, your interest is going to buy that first car. When you buy your first, whatever it is that you're looking for, your interest is going to buy that thing. So money will work harder for you than you can work for it. I don't know about you, but I have to work hard for my money. I've had to work hard for my money. And there were times when I was working hard for my money and still didn't have enough of it. Money says if you obey me, money says if you actually acknowledge me, money says if you respect me. And remember, to whom much is given, much is required. But also, she or he who is faithful with little will be faithful with much. She or he who is faithful with much will then get to the next level. So if you cannot be faithful with $1, you will not be faithful with 10 of them, 100 of them, 1,000 of them, or 1 million of them. Your attitude and your behavior doesn't change except for the worst in most cases. But if you have consistent principles, if you have consistent practices for making your money grow, then it will work harder for you. There are many ways to make your money grow. The method I'm going to talk most about today is the method that almost anybody can get involved in. And that is for an IRA versus a 401k. So let's first talk about an IRA. An IRA is an individual retirement account. And in this individual retirement account, you are allowed to put in up to $6,500 per year, or you can put in up to $7,500 per year if you are over 50. So once again, $6,500 per year or $7,500 per year if you are over 50. Now, you don't have to put in that much, but that's the maximum that you can contribute. Why is this important? One, the money that you contribute to your IRA is also going to help you reduce the amount of taxes that you owe. So remember, we talked about getting your money back. This is another one of those tax deductions. But the other thing is this money is going to grow over time. Now, let's take a look at a 401k. If you have a 401k at your job, your employer, you can contribute up to $22,500 per year and up to $29,000 if you are 50 and over. That's a beautiful thing. This money is going to grow over time. And I'm going to tell you how to take little small baby steps to get where you're trying to go. But a 401k, if you don't have one, you should contact your employer and ask about it immediately. The beautiful thing about a 401k is even if you don't have an employer, now remember, I want to take you back to something that I said earlier. I said, get more money. Why? Because one stream of income is hazardous to your wealth. Well, when you get more money as a self-employed person, or you have your own business, now let me go back because I wanted you to see that all of this is connected. I said, get more money so you can make your money grow. Well, if your employer does not offer a 401k, or if you don't have an employer, then you need your own business so you can set up a solo 401k. A solo 401k is for any self-employed person who wants to start a retirement account with the same tax benefits and growth benefits of someone who has an employer. And the beautiful thing about a solo 401k is you can contribute up to $66,000 per year. Now, I want you to just stop right there because we come in all shapes, sizes, colors, heights, all of those things. But here's the other thing. When we are not living in financial wellness, when we are not living up to our financial potential, we also come in all kinds of descriptions. If you make $10,000 a year, but you spend $20,000, you live in check to Monday. If you make $50,000 a year, but you spend $75,000, you live in check to Monday. If you make $250,000 a year, but you're spending $350,000, you still live in check to Monday. If you make $10 million a year, but you're spending $20 million, you got it right. You still live in check to Monday. So people can be financially ill at any salary. at any income. But here's the beautiful thing. People can be financially well at any income. You can be financially well making $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year, $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year. You can be financially well at any rate. Now, once you start getting all of your stair steps working together, you will eventually see that you've got more money available. And many people who are self-employed don't realize that the extra money that they're making could now actually help them in retirement. Let me talk to you about some of the attributes of an IRA. An IRA, there's a penalty if you withdraw the money anytime before you are age 59 and a half. So you want to take that into consideration. This is not money you're just going to be able to go and get if the roof falls in, if your car stops working, or something to that effect. Well, guess what? That's why I say everybody needs multiple streams of income. And everybody needs at least one home-based business. So I'm going to keep bringing it back to you why the thing that you may not want to do is going to benefit you in so many other areas. Here's the deal with the 401k. You can borrow against your 401k at any time. Okay. Now, you have to check with your employer to determine what those restrictions are. But many employers allow you to borrow against your 401k if there's a health issue. They allow you to borrow to buy your first home. Some of them allow you to borrow for educational expenses. They allow you to borrow if there's a loss of income and maybe a divorce or something to that effect. So you look at your plan and you find out what those things are. The beautiful thing about your solo 401k, you setting up your own 401k for your own business that you own, is that you can now set the plan parameters. You can decide what those criteria are, what the criteria is for being able to borrow from your 401k. Now, this is important because let's say I'm 30 years old and you're telling me if I borrow my own money before I'm 59 and a half, I'm going to pay a penalty? The answer is yes, but not if you have a 401k. If your employer doesn't have a 401k, then guess what? You start your own 401k. And the beautiful thing about you withdrawing money from your own 401k is you pay yourself back. All right. And you set up monthly or weekly or biweekly payments to pay yourself back. Now, here's what I want you to look at. And this is very, very important. Now, you can start anywhere, but $66,000 is the goal. $66,000. And some of us are saying, wait a minute, I don't have any money. How am I going to get there? That's not for you to worry about. That's what this whole wellness path is all about. This whole wellness path is designed to get you in a place where you have power. So I'm not going to show you the limitations. I'm going to show you the big vision. And the big vision is this. Your maximum contribution earnings for a 401k, if you were depositing $66,000 a year, and that means you would be putting in $5,500 a month. That may seem like a lot of money to some, but there are many of you out there who are entrepreneurs making $100,000 a year, $250,000 a year, $300,000 a year, and you're still trying to figure out, why don't I have any money? Well, here's the reason why. Because we're not putting it in the right places. So in 10 years, your $66,000, if you just put the money under a mattress, it would be 66,000 times 10, which is 660,000. But look at how money grows with interest. It will be $1,006,203 in 10 years. It will be $3,239,612 in 20 years. And look at this. In 30 years, it more than triples. Okay? In 30 years, it goes to from year one, it goes to $8,196,697. Now, I'm going to prove to you that these numbers are accurate, because in your homework, I'm going to give you something that you may never have been asked to do before, because I want you to put the power in your own hands. And this is earning at an average interest rate of 8% over time. 8% over time, which means you are choosing funds and you are choosing financial instruments that are going to perform over time. And I'm going to talk to you about that in just a few. But I want you to understand this. The whole reason to spend less money and get more money and get your money back is to make your money grow. Why? Because not only is your future, is your present important, and sometimes we buy money or we spend things, we spend money on things, we buy things and we spend money on things today that make us feel good today. We spend money on furniture and jewelry and clothing and things like that that make us look good on the outside, but we are not financially, emotionally, or mentally well on the inside. Well, this is to help you be well now and later. Because let me tell you something. It's a sad thing when you look up and 20 years have passed or 40 years have passed or whatever it is, and you haven't done anything with the time. I used to think in my 20s, oh, I'll get to that later. Well, now later is here. Okay. And the beautiful thing is, even if your later is here, if you are starting later in life, I always say you still have the opportunity to start today. If you are 40 and you live to 90, you got 50 years left. If you are 50, you live to 90, you got 40 years left. If you are 60, you live to 90 or 80, you still got 20, 30 years left. So all is not lost. You have the power to live in wellness today. Let me show you what this means if we compare it to different interest rates. Money will work harder for you than you can work for it. I want you to remember that. So let's be a little more conservative. If you were giving your maximum contribution at 5%, you'd have 854,000 in 10 years. You'd have 2.2 million in 20 years. You'd have 4.5 million in 30 years. And this is just by being consistent. At 8%, you'd have the numbers we just talked about. 1 million in 10 years, 3.2 million in 20 years, and 8.1 million in 30 years. Well, what if you were really strategic? What if you really started to understand money? What if you really started to grow your asset portfolio? And if you were earning 15%, then in 10 years, that will be 1.5 million. In 20 years, look what happens in 20 years. It's $8 million. Now, this should be an incentive for you to learn how to choose the right financial instruments. Because the difference between 8% and 15% is 3 million versus 8 million. The interest rate didn't double, but the money did. The interest rate didn't double, but the money more than doubled. It almost tripled. What happens in 30 years at 15%? 8 million is now 38 million over 30 years. So this should make you excited. Let me tell you why this should make you excited. Because money is not emotional. Money is not fickle. Money doesn't have favorites. Money is the most predictable thing that you can depend on, because why? 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter where you grew up. It doesn't matter what your parents did or didn't do. It doesn't even matter what you did in the past. Money says, I am objective and I'm consistent. And if you know what to do with me, then I will help you get where you're trying to go. Making your money grow is one of the single most important of all the steps. Making your money grow and being intentional about it. So, how do you get going? First, I'll say start small. All right. It doesn't matter if it's $1. If you save $1 in week 1, and $2 in week 2, and $3 in week 3, at the end of 52 weeks, you'll have over $1,500. If you double that, you'll have over $3,000. So you've got the ability to do this with whatever money you have right now. I said $1 a week. If you start off with 5 or 10 or 15 or 100, I told my daughters to start off with $50. $50 over 20 years. And this is money you're not going to miss. And they saw that it was almost $2 million. Well, what they started to ask me is, well, what if I put in more? So the whole idea is to start small. The next thing is to be consistent. Be consistent. Continue to do it no matter what. That's why I want you to choose an amount that you know you can handle. Money is like an exercise. The more you work it, the better it will work for you and the stronger it will become. The next thing is to remember that you want wellness now and in the future. You want wellness now and in the future. And with that, number 4, you must take matters into your own hands. You cannot wait for the job that's going to give you everything. Now, if you've got a job and they're giving you a 401k or giving you access to it, then great. But some of us don't have it. Some of us are self-employed. Some of us have skills and talents and all those things. And we need to take matters into our own hands. And then the last thing I want to say is choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how you can do that. But essentially, the S&P 500 is the measure by which we can standardize what your interest rates are going to be over time and how much your money can grow over time. So if you watch the stock market, if you've ever learned anything about stocks, I'm not going to teach that today, okay? I'm going to give you an opportunity to learn more about that. Today is really about making your money grow, and I'm much more interested in you having the mindset and the process than the product. But if your stocks or if your securities or if your bonds or if your portfolio is doing better than the S&P 500, then over time, you can expect your money to grow. Why? Because the stock market, the S&P 500, over the last several decades has never failed in terms of outperforming over time. Now, are there some years where the market is low? Yes. Are there some years where you need to restructure? Yes. But this is over time. Over time, you will succeed. Where do you make your money grow? Okay. Where do you make your money grow? Well, you can start with a high yield savings account. Just Google it. I'm not going to tell you which one to go to, but you'll see some familiar names there, and you may see some unfamiliar names there. Go where you feel comfortable, or speak to your financial advisor or if your financial coach. Okay, so think about your high yield savings account. And a high yield savings account right now, depending on the time we're dealing with this, or you're looking at this, or you're watching this right now in this season, high yield savings accounts are paying over 4 to 5%. 4 to 5%. 4 to 5%. Compared with your savings account that's attached to your checking account at your regular bank, it's probably paying less than 1%. Okay. So a high yield savings account is where you can start to put that $5, $10, $15, or whatever it is. The next place that you can look at is an individual retirement account. And again, you can go to your bank and ask for an IRA. The beautiful thing about the individual retirement account, it's going to help you reduce the taxes that you owe, and you've got money that you're putting away for retirement. But remember, you cannot withdraw it until you are 59 and a half without a penalty. The next place you can look is your 401k or your solo 401k. Okay? Your 401k and your solo 401k, this is your big ticket. This is your big ticket. And let me explain to you why. Because if you have a 401k and if you put in $10, chances are your employer may be matching. So you put in $10, your employer puts in $10. Or you put in $10, your employer puts in $5. Or you put in $10, your employer puts in $2. Whatever it is, it's money that you did not have before. That's so important. And the reason why you can do the same thing with a solo 401k, or that you can earn so much more with a solo 401k, is because as a solo 401k administrator, you are the employee and the employer. So you can contribute to your own solo 401k as an employee. And because you are the employer, you can then match those funds. Okay, so this is where you make your money grow. This is a loaded topic, and I'm not able to go into great detail about each one, but I wanted to give you the blueprint so that when you leave this class, you at least know what to go and research for yourselves, okay? Then you want to choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. Well, what funds am I talking about? I'm talking about mutual funds. Now, you may choose to buy one stock in Apple, or one share of stock in Apple, or one share of stock in Google, or one share of stock in Nike, or one share of stock in any company. But a mutual fund helps you minimize your risk because the fund has many stocks, bonds, and commodities. When you set up your 401k, chances are they're going to say, which fund or funds do you want to place your money in? And most of us have no idea. Well, I'm telling you that you're going to choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. Choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. I'm going to tell you where you go to choose those funds. The next type of fund that you may want to consider is an exchange traded fund, an ETF. And an ETF is similar to a mutual fund in that it has many stocks, bonds, and commodities, except in ETF, you can just go anywhere to your brokerage, whether you have a brokerage account with Fidelity or Ameritrade or any company, or Charles Schwab, which used to be TD Ameritrade. They have now become Charles Schwab, or Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, or Citibank. Wherever you go, have your brokerage account, and you can literally buy an ETF share just like you would buy a share of stock. Okay? A mutual fund is different. You have to place an order. So if you go and place an order for a mutual fund at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to know until the next day what the cost of that share was. However, with an ETF, you will know the cost right away. So there are a few other differences, but that's the main difference. What I like about them both is that they help you make your money grow. All right. So I just want to go back over this just really quickly. How do you get going? Start small. Be consistent. Remember that you want wellness now and in the future. You must take matters into your own hands, and then you want to choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. Why? Because this, what you see on the screen now, is what you could be missing. And let me help you understand something. If you're saying that could never be me, I'm saying yes, you. If you're saying that could never happen to me, you don't know about my family, I'm saying yes, you. I grew up poor in the projects of Chicago. And if I can do it, you can do it. If I can understand 1 + 1 = 2, you can understand 1 + 1 = 2. But I want you to remember, I had a business degree, a finance degree, and an economics degree, and I was still messing up. So it's not about the education that you get academically. It's about you understanding practically what it's going to take for you. Okay? So where do you make your money grow? High yield savings account, individual retirement account, 401k and solo 401k. And then you want to choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. Now, are there some other ways to make your money grow? Sure. But today, I'm not going to talk about real estate. I'm not going to talk about investing in gold. I'm not going to talk about investing in cryptocurrency. I'm not going to talk about any of those things. I'm specifically talking about proven strategies over decades and decades and decades. All right. We're going to talk about real estate in an entirely separate class so you can understand how to earn money through real estate, minimize your expenses, maximize your net worth. And yes, if you're earning investment income, how to make that grow as well. Now, here's your homework assignment. And I want you, you're probably thinking, well, how do I get this done? First, I want you to get a financial calculator. Now, most of us have a calculator on your phone. That's not going to do it. You can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But I want you empowered. So there's going to be a link made available to you. And this link will be available on the website as well as at lynnrichardson.org. And I want you to invest in a financial calculator. Let me explain to you why. Once you show me that you have your calculator, I'm going to teach you how to never get cheated again. I'm going to teach you how to calculate your own mortgage payment, how to calculate a car note, and yes, how to calculate how much money you have at a specific interest rate, whatever it is, and how much money you will have in a year, 5 years, 10 years. You need to learn how to do this yourself. Now, the beautiful thing is, if you were a math major, or the unfortunate thing is if you were not a math major, you don't know how to use algebra to do this. But guess what? That's why we have machines. And I want you to learn which buttons to press on a financial calculator in order to learn how to do this yourself. When I talked about wellness, when this was presented to me to discuss wellness, I took this seriously. That means you don't need to just sit here and listen to me tell you what to do. You need to be empowered to do it yourself. So your homework assignment is to get a financial calculator. And then I'm going to teach you how to research funds at lynnrichardson.org. Okay? So at lynnrichardson.org, you join for free, and you're going to be able to take a class called How to Invest in the Stock Market. And it's going to teach you basic things like what a stock is, what it isn't, how to look at your risk profile, some other things, but more importantly, how to go to your own brokerage website and research funds. Now, I'm going to give you a very, very simple lesson in it. And for those of you who want an extended example, then you'll go to lynnrichardson.org to do that. The very simple lesson is this. Go to fidelity.com or go to Merrill Lynch or go to E-Trade or Ameritrade or whatever your brokerage is and set up a free account and then choose research. And then it's going to say, well, what do you want to research? You're going to say, I want to research a mutual fund. And then you're going to choose compare. And when you choose compare, you can compare to the S&P 500. And you can compare it over the past year. You can compare it over the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. And you will see what the fund that you chose, how it performed in comparison to the S&P 500. That's a very simple way to do it. Okay? So you go to your own brokerage account. If you don't have one, set one up for free. If you don't know where to set one up from, Google it and say, where should I set up a free brokerage account? Choose research when you get in, choose funds, mutual funds, and then choose the funds that do better than the S&P 500 over time. This is not rocket science. I don't want you to think that you have to be some big, sophisticated, fancy investor on Wall Street. This is something that you can do if you take the time. And why do you want to take the time? Let me show you again why you want to take the time. Because that's what's at stake. This is not a matter of can you do it? It's a matter of will you do it? Let me repeat. This is not a matter of can you do it? It's a matter of will you do it? And will you start with the $1 that you have, or the $10 that you have, or the $200 that you have, or the $2,000 or the whatever it is. It is about you taking one step towards what it is that you want, so that money can work harder for you and take 5 steps on your behalf. That's what this is about. So I want you to remember again what this is all about. Start small, be consistent. Remember that you want wellness now and in the future. Take matters into your own hands. Choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. Where do you do this? High yield savings account, individual retirement account, your 401k or your solo 401k. Then you want to choose those funds. You're going to hear me say this a lot. Even when we start talking about real estate and protecting your money, you're going to hear me say this a lot, because that's going to be the cornerstone of how you make decisions. One of the biggest concerns, or one of the biggest things that people have concerns about when it comes to making their money grow, is they don't know what to choose. You choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. And if you are blessed to have a financial advisor, your financial advisor can sit and show you how to do that. Very easy. All you have to do is point and click. You do not have to be an expert. All right. And then we want to make sure our homework, get that financial calculator, and then learn how to research your funds at lynnrichardson.org. The link to the calculator will be made available on the website, and you'll learn more about that when we get to our break and during our Q&A. And the link will also be available in our free group at lynnrichardson.org. Okay, so just want to remind you before we take a break and then go into Q&A, what we have coming up. We did spend less money, get more money, get your money back. Now it's about making your money grow, and then we'll go on into protect your wealth. So that's my time for the instructional portion. We are going to take a break, and then we'll come back for Q&A momentarily.
There we go. I am now unmuted. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I have no doubt that you all are getting some wonderful information, as am I tonight. I am Antoinette Rogers, Program Director for Draft, and we thank you, as usual, for joining us. This is week 4 of this fantastic series, the Draft Financial Health and Wellness Program, sponsored by the Toyota Foundation. This has absolutely been wonderful. And you know, our audience each week is becoming more diverse and growing, but we need your help to help it continue to grow. So we need you to share this information with your family members, your coworkers, your neighbors, your church members. And we want to see the biggest diverse group possible. We have the capacity to have thousands on here. and we can have more. So we want you to be our PR agents. Tell people about the good things you are learning and about how you have made a difference in your financial lives since being a part of this program. One of the things that we asked you to do was to reflect on how you have been different, or how this program and participating in it has made a difference in your lives. And I wanted to share that I have been more conscientious about my spending. I have been eating out a lot less. I love to cook, but sometimes work gets busy and I don't always cook. So I have learned to be strategic and planning for my meals. And that has made a big difference. And it's okay for me to reward myself by eating out every now and again, but I have cut back that eat out budget by a long shot. The other thing that I have done since starting this program is really being more accountable for my resources. And it sounds crazy, but I thought back to my childhood when my father and my grandfather taught me how to roll coins. I don't know about you ladies, but a lot of times I have coins in the bottom of my purse. And I have begun to collect those coins using my banks, rolling those coins so that I can deposit that money in a high yield savings account. So, Dr. Richardson, we are listening and learning. Now, we posed in the chat tonight the question for you. Since joining this program, what have you done differently concerning your finances? And we got some great answers. And again, there are benefits to participating in the chat because we have chosen 4 winners for tonight. This is week number 4. So we have 4 winners. And those folks are Tracy R., who says, these sessions are making me be more responsible with spending, saving, and money management. Congratulations, Tracy R. Also, we have Leslie S. Leslie, that's Lessie. Leslie S., who says that she started using the budget form from week 1. Very good, Leslie. Also, we have Curlicious Beauty. Curlicious says that she brought Dr. Richardson's book and she has created a vision board to help motivate her to start with these principles that she has been learning. And our last winner for tonight, Key Badu J, says she has paid off all her credit cards so that she can start again, and she has opened a savings account. Congratulations to those 4 course participants who have been selected to receive this week's prize, which is a book entitled Investing, a Guide, a Quick Start Guide. I'm sorry, the book title is Investing, a Quick Start Guide. And so I need our 4 winners to respond to us, and you may send an email to the Delta Health and Financial Wellness Program email address, which is fhwp@deltafoundation.net. And that email address will appear in the chat. It is fhwp@deltafoundation.net. If you by chance have any difficulty reaching us via that email address, you can always feel free to visit us at our website where we have contact information listed there. The DREF website address is www.deltafoundation.net. Thank you again for joining us. We know that you will enjoy the second half. Now let's get to those questions and answers. Back to you, Dr. Lynn.
Excited. I am so excited about this Q&A, and I became aware of a technical difficulty. So I'm going to make sure we take care of that. And you know what? All things work together for good. I'm just going to leave that there, because I think what we did is we had an audio experience, but now we'll also get to have a visual experience to match that. So let me just make sure we've got it here. And let's make sure we get here so everyone can see, and then we'll go right into Q&A. Okay, so right before we get to Q&A, I just want to bring a couple of things to your attention. And I want to take you to a couple of screens that are very, very important that I referenced here, I spoke about. The beautiful thing is you'll be able to watch this again at deltafoundation.net. So I'm very, very excited about that. So if we utilized our audio skills to a heightened capacity today, now you're going to match it with your visual skills. And I want to get very quickly to the items that we talked about in terms of those areas where we want to make our money grow. And so I want to bring you to this particular screen where we talked about money working harder for you than you can work for it. So just very quickly, before we get into Q&A, because we are about 8 minutes ahead of where we normally are. So that's a very, very good thing. We've still got plenty of time. You can see the difference between an IRA and a 401k. An IRA has a $6,500 maximum contribution versus $7,500 if you're over 50. A 401k has a $22,500 contribution versus $29,000 if you're 50 and over. And then that solo 401k, if you are self-employed, your maximum contribution is $66,000 or $73,500 if you're 50 and over. An IRA has a penalty if you withdraw before 59 and a half. A 401k, you can borrow from yourself anytime and pay yourself back. And then in 10 years, if you were doing the maximum contribution for your solo 401k, you'd have $1,006,203. In 20 years, $3.2 million. And in 30 years, $8.1 million. That's an 8% interest. Okay. And then very quickly, here's the comparison. If you look at 5% versus 8% versus 15%. And if you look at 10 years versus 20 years versus 30 years. So it's very, very important to understand the reason why money will work harder for you than you can work for it. It's because of interest. Interest gives money the ability to multiply faster than you can earn it. Interest gives money the ability to multiply faster than you can earn it. Okay. So at 5%, we're looking at $854,000 in 10 years, $2.2 million in 20 years, $4.5 million in 30 years. At 8%, we're looking at $1 million in 10 years, $3.2 million in 20 years, and $8.1 million in 30 years. And at 15%, we're looking at $1.5 million in 10 years, $8.2 million in 20 years. And look at that. It just goes berserk almost in 30 years. Okay. So I want you to see that. I want you to speak what you seek until you see what you say. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. And if you can see something, then it is achievable for you. This has nothing to do with where you came from. It has everything to do with where you are growing. And then how do you get going? Start small, be consistent. Remember that you want wellness now and in the future. Take matters into your own hands. Choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. And then start with a high yield savings account, an individual retirement account, a 401k or a solo 401k. And again, choose those funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. What kind of funds? Your mutual funds or your ETFs. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure we got that. And we are actually now right on time because we give ourselves about 10 minutes for that break. And so now we can get going right now with Q&A. And Virgie is going to read those questions out, or a member of the team is going to read those questions out. We're going to answer as many of them as we can. Do we have any questions?
Can target date or index funds be used to outperform the S&P? I'll read that again. Can target date or index funds be used to outperform the S&P?
So I want to make sure, thank you for that question. I want to make sure that we're using the correct terminology. So we're not using a fund to outperform anything. We are comparing a fund to the S&P 500. So if you choose a fund, when you do your research and comparing to the S&P 500 is an option, then yes, you can compare it to the S&P 500. But all funds are not necessarily based on the S&P 500. There are other stock exchanges as well. So I want you to make sure that you've got the terminology. You are comparing your fund to the S&P 500. You're not using the fund, you're comparing the fund to the S&P 500. And if that fund is comparable to the S&P 500, you will know it when you do your research. And I'm going to do a live example of that, however, for those who are at lynnrichardson.org. So, but that's a very, very good question. It's good to get these things out when we don't understand terminology so that we can get ourselves straight and on the right path to making our money grow.
So, Lynn, what about government savings bonds as an income investment?
So I'm not going to answer specific questions about individual savings bonds. I don't have the authority to operate as an investment advisor. What I am going to say is that you want to choose instruments that over time are going to outperform the S&P 500. Now, that doesn't mean that you should not have a savings bond. And you get a savings bond and you keep it for however many years, and then you can cash it in after 20 years. You can do those kinds of things. But what I want to focus more on is the stock market being the standard for performance over time and choosing funds that outperform that. The beautiful thing is you can choose funds that have lots of bonds in them. Okay, so I want to focus more on diversifying your portfolio as opposed to focusing on one particular thing. If you choose a fund that has lots of bonds in it, I'm still going to say choose funds that outperform the S&P 500 over time. But that's a great, great question.
How do I set up solo 401k?
So if you want to set up a solo 401k, unfortunately, you cannot do it alone. And fortunately, you cannot do it alone. So that's sometimes we just want to take matters into our own hands and go, but you want to make sure you are following all of the IRS regulations, and you want to work with someone who can help you get there. So if you've got a financial advisor at any of the brokerage firms, if you've got someone who works for any of the companies, and there are many of them. There is Prudential, you've got Merrill Lynch, you've got Citibank, you've got any financial company. You can go ask someone at your bank. Most banks also have investment and wealth management advisors available to you. And then you want to sit with someone there and then find out which service or which service providers will help you set up that 401k. Great, great, great question.
Sorry, I was on mute reading. Where did you say the link would be for the financial calculator?
Excellent question. The link will be available at deltafoundation.net, where you can watch replays of each session. And the link is also available at lynnrichardson.org. You can join for free.
Can I access replays? If so, how? Because I missed last week's session.
That is excellent. And I'm going to tell you, if you missed the session, you want to access the replay at deltafoundation.net. And if you watch the session, you want to access the replay at deltafoundation.net. You want to continue to revisit these stair steps so that you can implement what you can at your own pace. There is absolutely no way to do everything that you hear in one session and just get it all done and then you're on your way and then in 8 weeks everything changes. No, you'll need to revisit these things again and again and again. So yes, at deltafoundation.net, you'll be able to access the replays.
Is there a minimum amount for a high yield savings account?
In most cases, in most cases, you will not find that there is a minimum amount, but you still want to reach out when you Google high yield savings account, and then you make a decision to go to someplace that looks familiar to you. You want to find out from there directly if there is a minimum. But I have found that the most reputable high yield savings account providers do not have a minimum amount. I've seen people start them with as little as $5.
When researching high yield savings accounts, I found online banks that are offering a 4.5% APY to a 5.05% APY. Would you trust to put your money in these online savings accounts we are not familiar with, like SoFi, Citizens, Citibank, Upgrade, etc.?
So what I would recommend is that you go with a company whose name you recognize. And if you go with a company whose name you recognize and you have the ability to speak to someone in customer service, then that provides another level of security for you. That's an individual decision, but you want to check to see if the bank is FDIC insured. If it's FDIC insured, that means your investment is insured up to $250,000 or whatever that particular financial institution may have available. But I say start with what's familiar. I do not personally recommend simply going to an institution simply because their interest rate is the highest. I highly recommend that you go to an institution that you can trust, that you can recognize, and that you can get someone on the phone to speak to. But the online savings accounts in general, and if you Google that, you can say, are online high yield savings accounts safe? And you'll find information there that will tell you yes or no. In many cases, you'll find that they are absolutely safe, but it comes down to customer service. It comes down to accessibility. It comes down to the ability to transfer funds easily and smoothly. And those are the things that you're going to want to research individually.
Can someone have a solo 401k and a 401k through their employer?
No. If you have a solo 401k, that means you are self-employed and you are your employee and you are the employer. If you work for someone else and they give you a W-2, you can only have a 401k there. You cannot get a solo 401k from your employer unless you are the employer. So a 401k, that means you work for someone else. A solo 401k means you work for yourself.
What's the difference or benefit between a physical financial calculator versus an app?
The benefits of a physical financial calculator is you learning how to do multiple different functions. However, if you are not interested in learning as much as you possibly can, then go on and get an app.
How do people sign up for the series now? The original link saying the event has ended.
Now, that will be a question for the organizers. I'm not exactly sure how to continue to sign up in the future. But perhaps that will be a question that can be answered at deltafoundation.net.
Thank you. What is the latest age you can put money in a solo 401k or IRA?
There is no latest age. You can be 99 or 200. There is no latest age. There is no age limitation. Banks are not allowed to discriminate based on age for you putting money or investing money.
Is the stair step 4 based on the IRA maximum or 401k maximum?
The stair step number 4 was based on the 401k, the solo 401k maximum. It's based on the solo 401k maximum. And we're going to go over more scenarios at lynnrichardson.com for those who want to learn more and who want to learn how to research funds and compare them to the S&P 500.
And Dr. Richardson, I think that's the last question.
Okay, this is amazing. This is amazing. Absolutely, positively amazing. And I want to go back and reiterate the difference between a financial calculator and an app is no different than if you're in school and you're learning, you're going to get a financial calculator or you're going to get a calculator for those practices that a teacher wants to show you how to manipulate things so that you can get the answer that you're looking for. Now, a beautiful thing is you can go and compare it to what happens on the app, but I'd love for you to learn, and I want to teach you what I know, and that's the best way to do that, to get as much knowledge as possible. Okay, I think that concludes our session for today, or are there any more questions coming in?
Well, everyone, we have done it. Another wonderful session. Week 4 is in the books. But Dr. Richardson, we are studious. We are paying attention. The dialogue in the chat is phenomenal. Folks have all kinds of questions, and we want to encourage you that if you have additional questions that have not been answered tonight, feel free to email them to actually, you can email them to FHWP@deltafoundation.net. That's Financial Health Wellness Program at deltafoundation.net. Or you may visit www.lynnrichardson.org for additional information. And you may also visit the DREF website at www.deltafoundation.net. We will be uploading accompanying documents and links on the website. So give us a few hours, at least until tomorrow, close of business, to get things up. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.